Hello everyone, and welcome to the release webinar for Squared Up version 4.4. I'm John Shaw. I'm the Chief Product Officer here at Squared Up. This is not my first release webinar, so I'm starting to get used to doing these things now. I'm very excited to tell you what's in this new release candidate for version 4.4. I'm joined by, as is often the case, I'm joined by Matthew.
Hi, John.
Hello, Matthew. So when you hear a polite voice sort of interrupting me, asking me questions, and quite possibly correcting anything I get wrong, that'll be our ever faithful and accurate Matthew. Okay, so what I want to do is just do a quick reminder of where we are in the roadmap, then introduce what's in this new version. I'll quickly show you with live demo, hopefully working, what the new features are, talk to you about how you can get it, little bit of news to share, and then we'll, as always, have time for Q&A. All right, so roadmap first. We are here. So here we are in October with Squared Up 4.4. So it was back in July that I last spoke to you all on one of these release webinars with version 4.3. That's when we brought in the performance report, new performance report tile, and a bunch of extensions on discovery for VADA. So 4.4 in October, and we're continuing on the pattern of every 2 to 3 months. The more mathematical among you will notice there are indeed 3 months between July and October, and certainly we're planning to continue that in the roadmap every 2 to 3 months with a new version. And so yeah, you'll notice that little word Azure. There's a little taster. More of that maybe to come later towards the end of this webinar in terms of roadmap. Okay, so what is in 4.4? So it's really about discovery. It's about quality. There's a bunch of maintenance fixes in here as well, and the probably the most sort of visible new feature is ServiceNow. So I'll save that one till last and talk to you first about the ways in which we've improved discovery and kind of hooking into management packs. So these are the new features in a little bit more detail. So discovery, then, this is what I'll demo to you first. We've added, many of you will be pleased to know, because I know we've had a lot of requests, and quite possibly from a bunch of you on this call, for us to support the new Microsoft SQL Server Management Pack. So we have added support for that now in VADA. You can discover through that management pack. We've also snuck in some new dashboards and perspectives that make use of that management pack. That is if you're doing a fresh install. I'll talk to you about quickly about how you can get that if you're not doing a fresh install. And then support for kind of non-ASP.NET websites. So our discovery kind of right now kind of assumes you're running, if you like, traditional websites. But for those of you doing WCF and all sorts of other fancy stuff with distributed app pools and servers and so on, we are now much better at discovering those, and we'll show you that in action, so that you can effectively, we discover each of those as independent categories in a discovery. So that's the discovery improvements that we've added. We've added, as is sort of our new pattern, rather than planning a specific maintenance release, we're building into every one of these releases now a bunch of fixes for known issues. And when you look at the release notes for this, you'll see there's quite a long list of improvements that we've fitted in here. So hopefully we fix one or two of the more niggly things that have been bugging. Sorry for the pun, but bugging all of you. And then finally, what we've added is a new, actually 3 ServiceNow tiles. And these are, some of you will have attended webinars in the past when we've talked about how you can bring in data from ServiceNow into Squared Up. What's different here, and indeed how to do that with ServiceNow. What's different here is that we've done a lot of the work for you out of the box. So if you are using ServiceNow, it's now really simple to sort of configure and set up. Bringing in the data from ServiceNow, you don't have to get into understanding their API structure anymore. We've done that hard work for you. We pull in automatically both incidents and change requests, and as well as what was there before in the web API tile in terms of scalar and table, there's also a beautiful donut chart visualization too. All right, so that's the taster coming up towards the end for those of you who are ServiceNow users. Don't forget, if you're not a ServiceNow user, there's still a little bit of news right at the end of webinar, so you might want to stay on through the ServiceNow stuff just to hear that little bit of information at the end. But first, before we do that, let's talk about, let's demo, if we can, the discovery piece. So what I've got here is version 4.4 release candidate running. This is a sort of plain vanilla installation. So this is what you'll see when you first install. And let's try mapping a new enterprise application so that we can see these new discovery features I mentioned in action. So we'll discover my order processing app, and we're going to go through and start building a map of it. So I happen to know that one of the application servers, some of you will get very familiar with these, it's called APPO1, and there's actually another one in there called, very excitingly, APPO2. So you can see this one is running the order processing service. That's the one that I want to do a discovery from. It seems to be talking to some things at the front end, so I'm going to find out what those are. You can see actually this one is also running the order processing service, so let's see how that's going. All right, so the first thing I want to show is the discovery of websites, apps, and app pools separately, servers and app pools separately. So if we look at each of these web servers that are fronting the application, as we run the discovery on them, you will see that we've now discovered, you see these new little icons that have appeared. We'll zoom in a little bit for you. Let's get rid of that maybe. And then we can zoom us in a little bit. And you'll see actually we've now discovered separately the website, the application, and then the app pool that it's running on. Now, ours is not a very excitingly structured. No. It's nice and simple. But if, for example, you know, the website was the web server was actually elsewhere distributed, not on the box you just ran the discovery on, you would still discover the others on there. And that's particularly sort of useful for situations, for example, where you're not actually running, as we mentioned, ASP.NET applications. You will still discover WCF or whatever it is that you're making use of there. So I know that's been a source of frustration for some of you that are wanting to discover sort of non-ASP.NET applications or ones that are distributed. So we have now fixed that, and note the new icons to represent the three things. But as I say, the tooltip as you hover over will actually show you: is this a website? Is it an application? Is it an app pool? Okay. Did I forget to show anything there, Matthew, or should we move on?
The only other point to sort of note is if you're upgrading your, when you upgrade Squared Up, you'll notice that the website will appear in all of your existing EAs. It was there before, but it was hidden. So that will now pop up as an extra component. If you don't want it to appear, all you have to do is just load up the, go and edit the EA and just hit the remove button next to the website, and it'll disappear and go back to the way it was before.
I'm not going to hit remove because I like it there, but
fair enough.
Yeah, but you can do that if you wish. All right. So the other thing I mentioned was the new SQL management pack. So let's have a little look here at the databases that these apps are talking to at the back end. So there's actually a SQL server here. Oh, and another one has popped up as well. And kind of as you look at them, you'll see it almost looks like there are two SQL servers on SQL 01 and SQL 02. This is, if we look at SQL 02 particularly, it looks like there's two SQL servers. Yeah, there's the second one appearing on SQL 01 as well. There actually aren't. What there are is two management packs, both discovering SQL Server. So the reason for this is, if I quickly tab over here, not the Surface Pro X, that's Microsoft advertising, but here is the new management pack that Microsoft's had out for a little while now for SQL Server that covers both the newest versions of SQL Server, but actually goes back and discovers older ones as well. So you'll see it discovers it manages SQL 2016 and so on. And so, in fact, these two SQL servers are running SQL 2016. So they're actually we've added discovery for the new management pack. We already had discovery for the old one. So you'll see it's discovered the SQL Server twice. So that's the 2016 management pack. That's the new SQL management pack discovering it with a more qualified name. Okay, so clearly I'd imagine in most of your cases, if you're using the new management pack, often people are choosing to then no longer use the older ones. We happen to be running both, so we're discovering it by both means in this instance. And again, as Matthew referred to, if you don't want to see it in there twice, you can remove the one that you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
If you when you upgrade, you will automatically will add for you the ability to discover from those management packs. So you can see that's been added already as a discovery source in here somewhere towards the bottom. There it is, SQL Server on Windows. So that's the discovery for the new management pack, and there's the old ones that are already in place. All right. So that is now a discovery. So you saw me discovering both the websites with applications and servers. You just saw me discovering with the new SQL management pack. I mentioned also that we've added new dashboards. So if you install a brand new in version of this, you will see that under the Teams folder, we've now, instead of what there used to be SQL 2016, SQL 2012, and so on, there's just a dashboard for SQL on Windows and SQL on Linux, which uses that new management pack. We have kept the old legacy ones, if you like, under legacy folders there. If you don't use those old management packs, you can just go in and delete these dashboards as normal. If, on the other hand, you're doing an in-place upgrade, we won't automatically give you these new dashboards. However, you can find from our, I didn't put it in. You can find from our, if you go to our dashboard packs page on squaredup.com, you will see that new dashboard pack there ready for you to install. You simply need to drop it into the right folder on your web server, and those dashboards will appear. We've also added, if you were to select an individual SQL server and drill into it, we've actually put in new perspectives. So there again, that's the SQL Server perspective built on that new management pack. So you're not seeing different perspectives for the different management packs there. All right, Matthew, as always, what did I forget to mention?
The only thing probably worth mentioning is, although the dashboard pack does support SQL on Windows and SQL on Linux, at this time, VADA support for discovery is only limited to SQL on Windows.
Yeah, good point.
So yeah, please get in touch with support and log a feature request if you're using SQL on Linux, because we have some questions to ask you about.
About how we do that.
Yeah, that sort of particular setup and the kind of things that you'd be looking for in terms of visualization.
Yeah, for sure. As always, discovery on Linux is not as easy as it is on Windows boxes. But the dashboard, the pre-built dashboard, is there for you to use for SQL on Linux.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So last thing to mention, I mentioned quality. So as always, if you go to our release notes, you'll see that we've listed the known issues that still exist in this product, and I'm afraid there will be one or two of your favorites still there as known issues. But you will see that we've addressed really quite a long list of bugs in this release. So hopefully you will also see some of the things that have most been pestering and annoying you as ones that we fixed in this release, and you'll see us continue to work through the list of your biggest annoyances as we do further releases after this. Okay, so that was discovery and quality. Let's talk about ServiceNow. So we've added some rather beautiful new ServiceNow tiles, including that lovely donut that you see there. We've set them up in a way that is simple to configure. You don't need any API expertise to do it. Now, there's an awful lot of information in ServiceNow. There's huge numbers of different blades that they will try and sell you, as those of you who are ServiceNow customers will know. But the ones that that it seems that people make the biggest use of are incidents and change requests. And so we've allowed you by default to pull data out of both of those tables. And from each of those, you can do scalar table, as you see on the side there, or a beautiful yellow and orange donut chart. The tables actually use the built-in views in ServiceNow. So that's one of the ways we've avoided you having to go in and understand the different fields and so on. You can build those views in the GUI in your ServiceNow instance rather, and we will then allow you to choose which view you want to show on your dashboard. Mm-hmm. So again, nice and simple. You can, of course, scope each of these to your SCOM objects. If you want to scope them on a particular dashboard, a particular perspective, you can narrow them down to an application, for example. And at any point from any of these, you can click through and go straight through to seeing exactly the thing you selected in your ServiceNow instance in context. So let's show that to you in action. So in fine tradition, I'm going to move to one I prepared earlier. So this is now not a clean install. This is one that's running a bunch of demo applications for us, and I particularly want to kind of show you what a finished product can look like with ServiceNow. So we've set up here donut charts that are showing all incidents, just the ones that are active. So you can do different filters. I didn't mention that, but you can filter on the status of both the incidents and the change requests. So again, in this case, we're showing just the active change requests. You can see you can highlight over the particular priority levels. If I were to click, we'll actually go through and see them. I'm not going to do that right now. We'll do that in a second. And then here we've built tables showing the detail behind some of those. And in fact, you can go in and do scalars as well. Maybe to sort of show you how it works, I'll go in and make a new dashboard, and you can see how this thing gets set up. So you'll see we've added a new tile type ServiceNow. Mm-hmm. You can then select whether you want to do a donut visualization, a scalar, or a grid. So we'll choose a donut for now. You can scope it to a particular object. You can, or you can just leave it unscoped, in which case it's going to pull everything out. And now this is the one bit of work you're going to have to do. So here you're going to need to actually set up for the first time a new provider. So if we go in to select a new provider, right on the top right, add new provider, and you'll see that instead of having to go through, as you do with this, you'll be familiar if you've used the web API tile, you're not going to have to go in and select OAuth, which is in fact how you do it. You just need to select ServiceNow, and you can just put in, you name it, so that just in case you have more than one ServiceNow, for example, if you've got a sort of a test environment and then a production environment, you can give them two different names. You then put in the URL of your ServiceNow instance, and all you then need is to put in an identifier that basically connects you. And the way you do that is you go into the application registry in ServiceNow. So here is our ServiceNow. You go into the application registry, and you can see that's where we've set up a new application for Squared Up. And you simply need that client ID. So if you wanted to set up a new one, you'd click New, go in and do the same thing. It can automatically create a secret for you, or you can make your own one, and it gives you this client ID. And then you come back in here, enter your client ID, enter the secret, and then the final piece of information you're going to need is a service account in ServiceNow that has the rights to go in and read the data out of ServiceNow. Once you've got all of that, you're up and running, and you can go back in and start building your tile. So we already added a provider ServiceNow. We can then choose whether we want to show incidents or change requests. So in this case, we'll show incidents. You can then choose whether you want to filter them, for example, just active, active unassigned, or closed. So let's have a look at closed ones maybe. And you can see already it's populated with the data. You can choose whether or not to show a legend, and you're done. And a similar thing, we could have gone and done the same thing with scalar and with grid. I'll show you quickly the grid just because that does have that view option that I mentioned. So again, by default, if you've only got one provider, we'll show that you don't need to select it. If you've got more than one, you can choose. You go in and define your table. So let's have a look at change requests. And this is where you see this list of views. So these are views that are actually defined within ServiceNow. So for example, I can choose the mobile view, which has a smaller number of columns. I can go in and choose one that we set up ourselves, a squared up perspective. I can limit the number of items shown in this case, I'm showing it for the entire ServiceNow estate, so it's going to be quite a long list. I can limit them. I can sort them by actually not just the fields, this is worth noting, not just the fields that are in the view, but I can sort them by any field at all. So if, for example, I wanted to sort them on a particular date, I can do that. I can have them in a date order, even if date isn't one of the fields that I'm showing. And at any point, if I want to click on a particular one, so let's click on this one, it will take me straight through into my ServiceNow account and show me exactly that change request in this case, I think is what I was showing. I've now forgotten what I clicked on. Now this is ServiceNow being slow.
Yeah, that's not our fault.
Maybe we'll give it an easier one to find. Why don't we give it an incident? Well, actually, let's show you, if we were to do this, actually, if we were to click on
I love this.
the low priority incidents, it's actually going to take us through and just show us just those low priority incidents. Okay, so it's actually showing us that sort of filtered view. So yeah, very, very nice. You see, we've actually automatically taken you through to a filtered view of just the low priority incidents in ServiceNow. Okay, so I mentioned the views. If you do want to go in and change views, you can actually go in ServiceNow and edit the views that you're seeing. There are different views. So you saw the mobile one, for example. And you go in and right click, and you can actually configure the layout. You can configure the table, and if you were to do that, it then allows you to save it as a new view. So if, for example, you wanted to add another column in here, you can do that, save it as a new view, and then that named view will appear back in the list of available views in the tile configuration. So back here. You'd see that new view appearing in this list here. Just to give you a quick example of how you can actually scope the ServiceNow tiles, let's go in, and we've actually done this for one of our applications. So in this case, here's the sales application that some of you will have come to know and love by now. And you'll see we've actually put in a perspective here for ServiceNow that is just going to show ServiceNow incidents related just to that application. So each of these tiles is now scoped in a way that's going to limit it just to that application. Okay, so this is showing it just for this sales app map for Windows computers. And what that's basically doing is passing through the resource names of all of the Windows computers that appear in that service map into ServiceNow. And then it's just showing us, in this case, let's remind me, the incidents. This is showing us just the incidents that come up with those resource names appearing in the incidents. So the one thing to note there is it does depend on you having set up the CMDB in ServiceNow so that your config items use the same, basically use a name that includes the computer name that you're looking for. So effectively the sort of the computer name, not the full qualified one, but just the name itself will be passed through, and we'll look for that appearing somewhere within the string in ServiceNow. Okay, so that's how you can use this to scope to a particular application or indeed to a particular resource. And again, as always, you can click and go back in and see that thing in ServiceNow. We're going to watch. Oh, it was quicker that time. There you go. Straight through to the incident. It must be the change request table that's being slow.
I think it had warmed up by that point.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. All right. So again, Matthew, I'll ask my usual question. What did I forget to discuss?
I think you hit it there. I mean, I really love that the fact that we pull down the views from ServiceNow, because it means your ServiceNow admins can continue to customize and build everything using all their expertise. And sort of unlike before when you could integrate, but you had to really drive the adoption in Squared Up and memorize the API and all that kind of stuff. Now you can sort of hook it up. Your ServiceNow team can continue to, build views in there, manage what's available, scope and things, everything else. And then you just get that all for free in your dashboards via a mechanism that basically anyone can use.
Yeah, no, that's a really nice point. I mean, and if you do find, for example, if you're using a particular view, whatever the mobile view, because you want to show a nice small tile, but someone realizes actually we wanted to add a particular field in that view, the dashboard will just pick that up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a really nice way of doing it, and also that has the nice benefit that for someone like me who finds messing around with APIs rather boring and long and arduous, it's just a really quick way of getting things set up. You don't need to go in and start worrying about the format of what gets returned from the API and so on.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you love that stuff,
it's still there. Feel free to use it.
Yeah, webinars are still available with Matthew talking you through how to do it. All right, so we talked through the new discovery features, new SQL management pack, sort of splitting sites and app pools and servers, and letting you discover non-ASP.NET web applications. Gave you a quick glimpse of all the quality improvements that are in there, the new SQL dashboards, and then we showed you the new ServiceNow Tile in all its glory. And by the way, that ServiceNow Tile, I mean, this is us starting to add, we hope, more and more of these kind of out-of-the-box integrations, so that for those of you who don't want to keep grappling with web API tiles, we'll make life easier and easier for you over time.
Suffice to say, when you showed that, the first thing that happened in the Q&A was a lot of people asking for...
Can I have it for?
Yeah, insert other CMDB or ITSM product here.
All right, send those requests in. So send those requests in. If you pay attention, I might even show you my email address at the end, so you can send it straight to me. All right, so if you want to get hold of this amazing new version, the good news for you is that as of earlier today, it's available. So if you go to downloads.squareup.com, you're going to find it. There it is. You're the first people we've told this to, as always. So there it is, download.squareup.com. Release email will come with the recording, as always. It is fully supported in production, so go ahead and put that into your production environments. It's absolutely fine for an in-place upgrade. It's certainly what we'd recommend. And as always, for those of you who are good enough to take our latest and greatest at release candidate stage, we will give you priority support, because we love all of that feedback that comes in. We genuinely do, and especially the stuff you don't like, because that's when we know what to do next.
Mm-hmm.
And we will follow with general availability later. Now, normally we aim to do general availability within 3 weeks or so of the release candidate. This one may take a little bit longer. So we may get that GA out by late October. It may go through into sometime in November. So please be patient with us. The reason for that is we are aligning that GA also with another thing that we're doing, which is something that I gave you a little preview of in the last release webinar. And I said that sometime in October we were thinking of making a Squared Up for Azure available. Well, we've been busy working on it, and we're going to align that with this new 4.4 for SCOM. So there will be a 4.4 for Azure. Later this month, we're actually going to have that early access release publicly available. So keep watching this space. If you're absolutely, this is where my email address appears. If you're absolutely desperate to get hold of that earlier than the end of this month, and you're willing to give us some feedback on what you find, there are a limited number of places. I know that sounds like a sort of advertising trick, limited spaces available, but there really are genuinely limited spaces available because Microsoft only lets us privately share this with a small number of people. We have a very small number left. So if you are interested in getting that right now and don't want to wait to the end of the month, please do email me. Likewise, if you have ideas on what kind of out-of-the-box integrations you'd like us to do next, or any other suggestions, do go ahead and email me. Matthew thought I was brave and foolhardy showing my email address last time, but very few of you took me up on the offer. So see if you can fill my inbox this time. All right. So I think that's us having covered everything, and that leaves us with a little bit of time for Q&A as always. Matthew, I don't know if we've had any coming in.
Yep, we've had quite a few questions. What I'll sort of cover over is just back around the SQL Management Pack. So a lot of folks asked about that. If you currently have both management packs in play, as John showed, you get like both perspectives and things showing up. One thing to note is that you will have to update your EAs with the new SQL objects. So the old ones will continue to stay there in your EAs for as long as you have the old SQL MP imported. If you just remove that, then obviously all those objects will disappear from your EAs. So we would suggest that before you do that final step, you go through your EAs, just run discovery again and update the objects in those EAs from the old SCOM objects to the new ones.
Once you've got the new management pack in.
Once you've got this management pack in, yeah. So obviously step one is get that in play first, and then start sort of migrating your EAs over to using the new one, the new MP that is, and then you can yank the old one out whenever you like. So I had one question just actually come in from someone saying they really like the ServiceNow integration, but they want to know if they can actually like close tickets or work tickets from the squared up interface. So at the moment you can't, but as John showed, because when you click on anything like an incident or a change, or you click on the slice of a particular area, it links you directly to ServiceNow. You're then able to work the alert from there. Part of the reason we don't let you close those is just simply from an auditing perspective. When you're accessing data from ServiceNow via squared up, you're doing it as a service account. So things get weird when it's like, well, why did the service account close this incident? And sort of following that audit trail can be tricky for some customers. So at the moment we are just read-only basically.
Yeah, and it's good practice to make the service account a read-only one.
Yeah, so we can't at the moment affect any change in ServiceNow, and there'll be some sort of questions about how that would work at the moment. So yeah, we made it easy for you to then go and make those changes, but at the moment we are just sort of a read-only view, and if you need more information or you need to work an alert or triage an incident, then you can always drill through and do that directly.
Yeah, so it's one click and you're through to that incident or that change request to do whatever you need to do to it. Obviously, the only drawback there is you do need to have a ServiceNow account in order to be able to do it. But I guess that makes sense, right?
Yeah. So yes, when you actually then click on any of the drill downs or drill into any of the ServiceNow features, at that point, we're just bouncing you to ServiceNow, and they will then prompt for your login credentials and everything else. And John's already logged in, so when he clicks, it just is seamless SSO, but if he wasn't, then it would immediately prompt him for his ServiceNow credentials, and he can type in the long password.
Yeah, I realized just as we were setting up the webinar that I have a very long password full of complicated characters, and I didn't want you to have to watch me trying to do that so I was logged in already.
Okay, I think that wraps us up.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. There were one or two people asking about sort of particular integrations. What would be great for me, if you don't mind, is actually drop that in an email to me. Or if you don't remember my email, or you don't want to send it straight to me, you can always raise a support ticket, and it'll come to me the same way. So yeah, do get your suggestions in for what you'd like to see us do next. As always, these suggestions are very, very happily received, positively encouraged. All right, thank you very much, everyone, for your time, and enjoy playing with Squared Up version 4.4.
Thanks so much, guys.